Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is casual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Welcome. This is, we're here to talk about problem solving with the creative mind, which I think everybody knows is kind of shorthand for design thinking. So we have two great design thinkers on stage here today. As you guys find your seats, we'll open up by just talking about what does design mean to a very big company like IBM. I think we all are familiar with design as the territory of the niche team, the startup group. But Phil, maybe you can start out by talking about design at IBM and what's happening at IBM.
Sure. I think that we're facing a world where all companies, small, big, in every industry, are faced with two kind of very strategic drivers that are keeping all of us awake at night. And the first one is this increasingly digital touch point with our customers and clients. And that digital experience has got to be great. And so we're starting to see for the first time ever CEOs, chairmen of the board, and boards discussing their customers' experience in a way that's kind of unparalleled in the world. So experience is one driver, and the other driver is fast. It's got to be fast. Because these experiences are increasingly digital, they can be changed very quickly, and in fact, your competitors are changing them quickly. So we feel like design and the design mindset is a very powerful and potentially the powerful lever to address both of these things. Better user experiences for our clients and customers and moving them at speed and scale.
I see. So Harry, in your opinion, why do you think experience matters so much right now? Why is everybody here talking about design and experience?
Because experience is our lives, right? Apart from religious experience, social experience, philosophical experience, most of our experience is actually the products and services that we consume. That's our lives. And so we really care about our lives. We care about our experiences. And as people, we have learned, as consumers, we have learned that we don't really need to compromise today. We can insist on a better experience. That's our right, and it's also the right of other people in the world. And so we're demanding of the companies that want to sell us products and services that it work, and that it not be oriented around their profit, but it be oriented around our benefit. And if it doesn't, we'll go elsewhere as consumers. And designers are just acutely attuned to that reality. They see when stuff is bad and it upsets them and they want to change it. And large corporations the world over have recognized that if they want to succeed, they're going to have to serve their consumers, their customers, their constituents much, much better than they have in the past. And they're asking designers to help them to do that.
So let's talk about the people who this work actually falls to. In the crowd today, raise your hand if you're a designer, if you consider yourself a designer. A lot of designers. Now raise your hand if you're trying to hire a designer or poach a designer. It's almost just as many hands. So why is it, and these two guys.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard to retain these folks?
Well, I don't think it is hard to retain people. I do think that the marketplace is very competitive right now. I mean, we're seeing, there was a talk that a kind of famous designer gave just a couple of months ago, and he said, this is the golden age of design. We're screwed because there's so much competition for talent. And so I think what is interesting and what we're really working on at IBM is to make sure that we create, physical spaces and mental spaces so that a culture of design can emerge in this company and give people long, fulfilling careers with ever challenging and ever more demanding design problems. And so we spend a lot of time at our place worrying about culture, as I said, both physically and mentally, but also developing a sense inside of IBM that the craft of design is something that has to be valued at a strategic level, and it does, so that we all know our worth individually and we know our contribution to the larger thing that the enterprise is trying to do.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is that right now, because of all the things that Harry said, the demand for design and the demand for great designers is as great, I think, as it has ever been in the world. That is both an opportunity and a threat, I think, to the craft.
Yes. So, Harry, for all the folks here looking for work, probably a lot of them would love to work at Frog. What have you done at Frog to create that environment where people who are sensitive can feel like their work is being seen and heard the right way?
So, okay, that's a very deep question, actually, and I've only got 12 minutes, so it's going to take a while. Frog is about design. There is the leadership is design focused. I've spent 25 years working in the design space. I think and breathe design and innovation. That's what I do. That's what Frog does. So when you work at Frog, you're in a place where you're in the most important discipline in the company. And so you feel really important. And at Frog, you get exposed to a whole bunch of different creative challenges, which is very, very enriching for folks. So I think that one of our, part of our value to people working for our company is that we can accelerate people's progress through their design career very, very rapidly. They come in with little experience or very limited experience, and then through some intense years working on very, very challenging projects across a very broad range of challenges, they can then leave and go to work for another large corporation to lead design in another large corporation, very, very confident in their ability to handle pretty much anything that comes at them. So I think that's a big part of the value of working at Frog. But I could go on, but my guess is that you want to circle back to my question.
Let's see how Phil has tackled it at IBM.
Sure.
So you're obviously in the process of becoming an organization like Frog within IBM. How have you kind of made that transition painless?
We view it a little bit differently because we are not a separate organization inside of IBM. And in fact, very intentionally, we've organized ourselves a little bit different than most enterprise design programs. We actually embed our designers in the business. Our goal is to create a sustainable culture of design and design thinking across all of IBM. That will ultimately entail making about 350,000 people around the world design thinkers at some level. We're also injecting this formal craft. At IBM, we view ourselves as essentially delivering and maintaining the systems of the world. Something like almost 90% of every financial transaction on Earth goes through IBM systems. Our designers' challenge is how do we make these systems of the world even more accessible? Because we believe if we do, we will accelerate economies in the same way that we have done throughout the Western world, and today are tackling major, at the economy level, shifts in places like China and Africa. That's really the mission of our designers. They're embedded in the business, and they are intentionally meant to not only do their great work, but essentially infect the multidisciplinary teams at the execution level that they're a part of every day. And so they get a real, not the pure design experience, but all the way through fabrication and delivery into a system that makes its way out into the world. That can be frustrating at times to be a part of that whole process. It's also very invigorating when you see your work actually get out to the marketplace.
Yeah.
Can I jump on that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I think Phil touched upon a really key point, because you talked in particular about your focus on financial services and sort of creating the financial plumbing that keeps the world clean.
Yep.
And that's a big part of Frog's business too. About 25% of our business is in financial services. And this actually is an example of the challenge for young designers when you enter a design firm today. Because in due respect to your business and ours, it's sometimes more difficult to see the human value you're providing when you're working in financial services. It's a more sophisticated system design, type of design problem. And so at Frog, we work in such a broad range of work. Right now we have a team in India looking at ways to educate mothers so that they can raise their kids to be more literate and be more able to thrive. That's clearly very direct social impact, and that's very easy for folks to relate to. And at the same time, we have teams working with a large New York bank trying to figure out more simpler ways, more secure ways to handle treasury accounts. That's quite challenging for a young designer because most young designers don't really relate to that. And so in our business, as I'm sure in yours, we are working to help folks understand the impact of their work and to see how your work is in fact directly or indirectly improving somebody's life somewhere in the world. And there are many, many different ways to do that, all of which are important. And there's a second complexity, let me just layer that on,
Sure.
which is designers don't just do design. Design is an important part of what we do, but the ways of thinking of designers are in some ways even more valuable than the literal design that we deliver. And I've gone out and talked to like 30-odd clients over the last year around what was the value that they saw in working with Frog. And repeatedly, they have told me that the value comes partly from the design that we deliver, that's good, because that's our core business, but also from our ability to help align their organization, to show people where they're going, and to get large, complex organizations to agree on what to do next. That's really valuable, and it turns out the designers are some of the best people in the world at bringing organizations together, and we should not underplay that value.
You know, that's a great point, Harry. The reason that designers, and for those of you who are designers or design thinkers in the audience, and if I expanded it to that, it's probably almost everybody, the reason that's doable, and I'm seeing it firsthand, is because the superpower of the designer is to develop empathy with a human being.
Yeah.
And once you do that, all of the work prioritization happens. And so one of the things I think we mentioned maybe talking about is this move that I'm seeing in the world, and certainly we are driving at IBM, is this move from the process-oriented 20th century to the collaboration-oriented 21st century. And that collaboration-oriented 21st century is this empowered multidisciplinary team. And when you bring all these disciplines together, when you really have to deliver a product to the world and to the marketplace, and it's not just engineering, it's not just product management, it's not just design, it's not just legal, it's not just finance, it's not just sales, it's all of these people coming together, you have a lot of different points of view. And when you can distill the point of view actually by reference back to that user, the human being that's going to use and consume this product or this service, it gives you a focus that I've never seen before in terms of work prioritization systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's our ability to connect with the consumer, the customer, the constituent that gives us the authority in the room.
So it's a sense of purpose.
That's great.
Okay. And so what do these teams look like? In a multidisciplinary team, does one person set the purpose? Does the designer set the purpose and everyone else goes with it? Is it a discussion? How do these discussions look and how should they look?
It's a team.
Yeah. It
has to be a team. And this, again, is where it gets challenging. Yeah. You know, Phil and I have the advantage of having been in this business a while. So we have seen a lot of change. I remember 25, 30 years ago, a designer could work as an individual and deliver value. Today, it's very difficult to deliver value as an individual. And so great design is achieved by teams, which are generally multidisciplinary teams. And in order to work as a team, you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to share ideas before they're fully formed. And that's not necessarily a skill that is being taught today. So you have to learn it on the job. And it can be challenging for folks who feel the answer but can't quite communicate it. And so at Frog, we work really hard to help those folk learn to develop a voice so that they can be an active, authoritative, and play a full part in the role of that team.
We used to have I remember when we first brought this capability into IBM, and we'd have our teams together, and we'd put them through a pretty intense the whole team, the multidisciplinary team, engineering, product management, design, maybe others, would be in one room for a week, very intense week, and they would all buy into this user-centered, this human-centered approach. And it was amazing, and it took me way too long to figure it out. But after a few months, I would watch them, and I would see them come back, and these different constituencies would come back, and they would almost start arguing. It was almost like, I have better empathy than you do. And so we were all bought into this human-centered design concept. Then we would fight with each other. The engineers would fight with the product managers, would fight with the designers and all that. And it took us a while to kind of identify this pattern that we weren't actually doing design thinking with ourselves. We were doing amazing design thinking with our user.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
And so we altered our own internal statement that we use about empathy. And we now, whenever we say the word empathy, we say empathy first with ourselves, then with our users.
Yeah.
And because this teaming thing, let me tell you what, this world of collaboration is not easier, it's harder. It's much easier to live in a process-centric world. And developing the empathy with one another, developing the trusting relationships across these disciplines, this is a non-trivial skill. A lot of people talk about learning to code. Designers should learn to code. And I think that designers should learn things like understanding abstract object models. You have to understand the system in order to deliver, to design the system. But I'll tell you what it's more about. It's more about developing empathy with the engineer or developer or manufacturer that is helping you get your design to market. If you don't have that empathy, if you don't have that trust, your lives are going to be very frustrating.
Yeah, we have to remember, engineers are people too, okay?
So how do we reconcile this idea with the archetype of the prima donna designer who always knows best?
That's
rushes
gone.
Out of the room?
That's gone.
So that person
that
is extinct.
That is so last century.
So what's the new attitude that designers, or that everybody in the team should have? That we talked about it a little bit, but what does that attitude look like?
It's, Phil and I, the reason we're having beers here is because Phil and I got
Cheers,
together
by the way.
at South by, and we're saying, we didn't want to do this sitting kind of, in a low chair, drinking coffee or something. That felt low energy. We thought we should do this more like a chat at a bar. Hence the beer. So I think it has to be one of humble confidence. You have to be confident in who you are and humble to respect the point of view of others.
Yeah. We have a saying, strong opinions, loosely held.
Yeah.
And same kind of sentiment.
Yeah.
I want you to have a point of view. I want you to take your point of view to the meeting. You need to develop the skill to communicate your intention. You also have to understand that there are other good ideas and step back when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
So humble confidence, folks. That's the takeaway. Well, thank you, Harry. Thank you, Phil.
Great.
Thank you.
It's good. Thanks.